My landlord wanted to evict me by claiming my art was property damage, so I took the art with me and turned his house into a worthless dump. Everyone in the neighborhood knew my house as the mural house, since from outside it looked normal, but inside every wall was covered in my hand-painted fairy tales and Disney scenes. I thought my landlord Rick would always be fine with the art he'd approved years ago, until he realized that my murals had raised the property value far beyond what it was right now. The first red flag came when Rick's niece posted my Disney murals on social media, and they went viral. Within days, Rick showed up with 3 plumbers who spent hours photographing walls instead of checking pipes. I heard one whisper, "This is so beautiful, it must be worth a lot," while touching my hand-painted castle. Rick just smiled and mentioned needing to update insurance values. The second warning was when Rick brought an art appraiser disguised as an insurance adjuster. They documented every mural with professional equipment while I was at my art class and left before I returned home. When I confronted him, he claimed he was just protecting his investment. The next week, he was showing the house to investors, telling them about his plans to maximize the property's unique features. I thought I understood his game until the eviction notice arrived, but it wasn't what I expected. The letter didn't mention wanting to sell or raise rent. Instead, it gave me an ultimatum: pay $75,000 for malicious property destruction, or vacate within 30 days. Photos showed paint on outlets and baseboards labeled as evidence of vindictive damage. The notice claimed I'd painted murals to deliberately trap him, making it impossible to rent to anyone else. He thought he was so clever. Either he'd get a massive payout or get me out while keeping my art. I sat in my painted kitchen reading the words "unauthorized alterations" and "deliberate destruction" over and over. My hands shook so hard I dropped my coffee, watching it spread across the letter, blurring his signature. 25 years. I'd painted through my pregnancy here, taught my daughter colors on these walls, mourned my mother under the constellation ceiling. Now Rick was calling it all deliberate destruction, like I was some vandal instead of the woman who'd turned his rotting property into art. The cruelest part? He knew I'd never have $75,000. This was just his way of stealing everything while playing victim. That night I called my brother crying. "He wants $75,000 or I have to leave," I sobbed. My brother went quiet, then said something that changed everything. "If you leave, you should restore his property to its original condition. That's just being a good tenant, right?" Something clicked. I stayed up all night reading the letter. Every page called my art damage and demanded restoration costs. You see, I realized that if he legally classified them as damage, then removing them was the responsible thing to do. I called Rick the next morning. "I can't afford the $75,000, so I'll vacate, but I'll restore your property to its original condition before I go." His laugh was so smug I wanted to reach through the phone. Smart choice. Leave my property ready for the new tenants. I spent 3 days stripping every mural with industrial sanders. 25 years of work turning to dust. Underneath my art, the walls looked diseased. Black mold crept up from the baseboards I'd sealed with paint, and water stains bloomed across the ceiling like infection. My art had been the only thing holding his slum together. Rick arrived on moving day with buyers, earlier than he'd said he would. I watched from the truck as he unlocked the door, telling them about original hardwood floors and vintage architecture. He was still lying to them, pretending he didn't know about my murals, playing the humble landlord who just happened to own a gold mine. I followed them in, needing to see this. The moment he flipped the lights, his whole body went rigid. The buyers stepped back. Is this safe?" one asked, pointing at the black mold. Rick's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "This isn't what the house was supposed to be." His voice cracked while looking right at me. I handed him the restoration company's report. I couldn't pay the damage fee, so I removed all the damage, just like your notice demanded. The buyers were already at the door. Rick grabbed my arm. "The murals! Where are the murals?" Now he was finally admitting it. "What murals? You mean the malicious property damage?" I removed it all. I pulled out my phone, played our recorded call. "You said to leave it ready for new tenants." He stood in his ruined house, looking at the 25 years of hidden rot in shock. "You knew what you were doing," he whispered. I just laughed and drove away with all my luggage, leaving the angry landlord behind. The house has been empty for 2 years now. Rick can't afford the repairs and can't sell it as is.